You've been doing the right thing. Every month, a portion of your paycheck goes into a savings account. You don't touch it. You let it sit. You watch the number grow slowly, the way you were told it should. And there's a quiet satisfaction in that. The feeling of being responsible, of building something, of being the kind of person who saves. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you when you open that account. The number going up doesn't mean your money is growing. It might mean exactly the opposite. The balance increases, yes. But what that balance can actually buy, the real purchasing power sitting inside those digits, may be quietly shrinking every single month. Not because of anything you did wrong, because of something mathematical that operates completely independently of your discipline or your intentions. And understanding what that something is, really understanding it, not just knowing the word for it, changes the entire way you think about what saving money actually means. Most people understand in a vague way that inflation exists, that things cost more over time, that a dollar today buys less than a dollar did 20 years ago. It's the kind of fact that gets nodded at and then filed away without being felt in any meaningful sense. But the way inflation interacts with savings, specifically with money sitting in a standard savings account, is more precise and more significant than the general concept suggests. And most people have never actually done the calculation that makes it real. The common belief is that saving money is the conservative, safe option, that investing carries risk and saving is what you do when you want to protect what you have. That framing is deeply embedded in how most people think about money, and it's incomplete in a way that quietly costs people a great deal over time. Because protection implies that what you're protecting is staying intact. And in real terms, in terms of what the money can actually purchase, a savings account at a standard interest rate is not protecting your money. It's presiding over its gradual decline while the balance number tells a more comfortable story. Here's the math, stated simply. A typical high street savings account in recent years has offered interest rates somewhere between 0.5% and 5%, depending on the institution, the account type, and the economic moment. Some accounts offer more right now, many offer considerably less. But let's use a number that feels reasonable. Say 2% annual interest on your savings. That sounds like growth. The account balance goes up by 2% each year. But now introduce the other number, inflation, the rate at which the general cost of goods and services increases. Over the past several decades, average inflation in most developed economies has run somewhere between 2% and 3% annually. In recent years, it's run significantly higher. When inflation runs at 3% and your savings account returns 2%, the real return on your money is negative 1%. You haven't grown your wealth, you've lost purchasing power slowly and invisibly, while the balance number created the illusion of progress. Put it in concrete terms. Imagine $10,000 sitting in that account for 10 years at 2% interest. The nominal balance after a decade is roughly $12,190, more than you started with. Feels fine. But if inflation averaged 3% over the same period, the purchasing power required to buy what $10,000 bought at the start is now approximately $13,440. Your balance is $12,190. You need $13,440. The gap between those two numbers, $1,250, is what inflation quietly removed from your real wealth while your account balance was telling you everything was fine. This is not a fringe scenario. This is the standard mathematical outcome of keeping money in a low-yield savings account during a period of even moderate inflation. The loss is not dramatic. It doesn't arrive in a single moment. It accumulates in percentages so small they're invisible year to year and only become legible when you step back and look at a decade. And the psychological dimension makes this harder to see clearly because the balance is going up. The account statement shows growth. The behavior of saving feels virtuous and responsible. Nothing about the experience signals that something is being lost. The loss is happening in a dimension, real purchasing power, that most savings account interfaces never show you. Here's the reframe that matters. Saving money and protecting money are not the same thing. Saving is a behavior. Protection is an outcome. And whether the behavior produces the outcome depends entirely on whether the return on your savings outpaces the rate at which purchasing power is eroding. When it does, when the interest rate meaningfully exceeds inflation, savings accounts do protect and even modestly grow real wealth. There are periods and account types where this holds, but when it doesn't, when the interest rate trails inflation, which has been the default condition for savings accounts across much of the past 2 decades, the responsible feeling behavior of saving is producing a slow, quiet loss that never announces itself. This doesn't mean stop saving. It means understand what savings is actually for versus what investing is for. Savings, a liquid, accessible buffer, is for stability, for emergencies, for money you genuinely might need within the next 1 to 3 years. That's its job, and it does that job well. The cost of that accessibility and stability is accepting a modest real return, sometimes negative. But money that isn't needed for stability, money with a longer horizon, money intended to build actual wealth over time, sitting in a savings account indefinitely isn't the conservative option. It's the losing option, dressed in the language of responsibility. The practical shift is straightforward, even if the emotional shift takes longer. Money you might need within the next year or 2 belongs in a savings account. Accessibility matters more than return for this portion. Accept the modest loss on purchasing power as the price of having the money available when life requires it. That's a worthwhile trade. Money with a longer horizon, 3 years, 5 years, a decade or more, belongs somewhere that can outpace inflation over time. That might mean a diversified investment account. It might mean other assets depending on your specific situation and risk tolerance. The specifics matter less than the principle. Money intended to build long-term wealth needs to be in something that has historically grown faster than inflation, not something that historically trails it. The question worth asking about money currently sitting in savings is simply this: when do I actually need this? If the honest answer is not for several years, the follow-on question is whether a savings account is the right home for it, or whether it's just the familiar one. Familiar and optimal are different things. And in the context of long-term money, the familiar choice has a mathematical cost that's worth seeing clearly before deciding it's still the right one. You didn't do anything wrong by saving. The instinct to set money aside, to build a buffer, to be careful, that instinct is right. It's the foundation of everything else. But money deserves to be understood, not just accumulated. And part of understanding it is knowing that the number on a savings statement and the real value of what that number represents aren't always the same thing. Saving protects your present. Investing, done patiently, appropriately, with a long horizon, protects your future. Both matter. And knowing which is what lets you use each one the way it was actually designed to work. The goal isn't to stop saving, it's to save smarter than the account balance alone would suggest. That distinction, quietly understood and applied, is worth more than most people realize.